Mr. Richards, I'm your court-appointed theatrical agent. It's time.
Welcome back to Man vs Movies, your cinematic coliseum where this week I toss two films into the arena and watch them claw their way toward victory, while I provide witty commentary from the safety of a metaphorical luxury box. Tonight's main event is a vicious, no-holds-barred brawl between two films separated by nearly 4 decades. The Running Man from 1987 and The Running Man from 2025. Two movies with the same title, the same basic premise, and the same source material, Richard Bachman aka Stephen King's novel. And yet, they couldn't be more different if one was written by a cocaine-fueled 80s action producer and the other by someone who has actually met a depressed human being. Imagine one film drenched in neon, spandex, and explosive one-liners, and another drenched in hopelessness, moral decay, and the kind of realism that makes you check your bank account. That's the matchup tonight. This is a fight. This is a contest. This is a Man vs Movies throwdown. Let's go to round 1. It's hard to think of two films that begin from the same seed and blossom into such wildly different plants. The 1987 Running Man wastes absolutely no time announcing what it wants to be. Within minutes, we're thrust into a future where fascism is televised, the police wear hockey pads, and societal collapse has somehow resulted in even bigger shoulder pads. The story jumps around with the pacing of an excitable child telling you about their favourite action figure. We meet Arnold Schwarzenegger's Ben Richards, wrongfully imprisoned after refusing to fire on civilians. He escapes, gets recaptured, and is shoved into the world's most popular TV show, a blood sport where criminals are hunted by costumed killers for the amusement of America's most enthusiastic seniors. The entire film unfolds like someone mashed together Rollerball, American Gladiators, and those commercials from RoboCop, and then asked, how many people can we electrocute in 100 minutes? It's silly, chaotic, and absolutely devoid of subtlety. But it's fun. Honestly, it's the cinematic equivalent of a pizza with far too much cheese, and nobody is complaining. Meanwhile, The Running Man 2025 takes a breath, sits down and says, let's actually tell the story Stephen King wrote. This version gives us a Ben Richards who's not a muscle-bound titan, but a desperate man drowning in a collapsing society. Glenn Powell plays Richards as someone watching every part of his life fall apart, losing his job, losing his home, watching his wife turn to stripping to keep their sick daughter alive. The show he volunteers for isn't a cartoon arena. It's a sprawling nationwide hunt that tests his endurance, morality, and sanity. The film moves across the Northeast like a dark odyssey, pushing Richards through abandoned towns, industrial wastelands, and desperate survivors who are barely surviving themselves. The tone is heavy, intentionally heavy, and the world feels painfully close to the one we're living in now. Both films tell a story about a man forced into a brutal game, but the 1987 version wants you to enjoy the spectacle, while the 2025 version wants you to squirm under the weight of its plausibility. Round 1 goes to the 2025 film for sheer narrative depth. though the 87 version punches far above its weight class in terms of entertainment. If you've read the Stephen King novel, you know Ben Richards is supposed to be a desperate, gaunt, cornered man willing to use every ounce of cunning to stay alive. The 87 film takes that description, throws it into a wood chipper and says, "No thank you, we have Arnold."
You serious?
Arnold Schwarzenegger's Ben Richards is practically a superhero. He looks like a Greek statue made of protein powder. He talks like his voice is trying to escape his own muscles. And sincerity aside, he's lovable. He lights up every frame with the unmistakable Arnold charisma. Even when his acting is wavering, his presence is magnetic. You believe he can tear through any obstacle, not because the script says so, but because he looks like he could snap your car in half. In contrast, Glenn Powell's Ben Richards is an everyman pushed to his breaking point. He doesn't swagger into scenes, he trudges through them. His performance is understated, sometimes too understated. But he brings a lived-in exhaustion that Arnold never needed to convey. Powell plays Richards with quiet despair, a man carrying the weight of an entire broken society on his shoulders, while still trying to muster the will to fight. The tragedy, though, is that his subtlety sometimes works against him. In a film filmed with flamboyant villains, he occasionally fades into the background. He's good, he's very good, but he's overshadowed. Arnold may not resemble King's characterization, but as a screen presence, he wins the round. He grabs it, flexes it, and throws it into a wall. Round 2 belongs to 1987. This is the round where both movies shine, but in spectacularly different ways. The 1987 film delivers some of the most memorably absurd villains in 80s action cinema. Each stalker looks like a rejected idea from a toy line marketed to children who love violence. There's a chainsaw-wielding biker, a flamethrower enthusiast who floats around like a pyromaniac angel, and a killer decked head to toe in Christmas tree lights who thinks he's the second coming of Pavarotti. Then there's Richard Dawson as Killian, a masterful serpentine host whose smarmy grin is somehow more dangerous than any of the weapons. Dawson is so good, he elevates the film every time he speaks. He is the perfect villain for this kind of absurd world.
Killian, I'll be back.
Now, swinging over to the 2025 film, the villains abandon cartoonish theatrics for a more disturbing blend of corporate evil and reality show manipulation. Coleman Domingo steals the film with a performance that is flamboyant, theatrical, and frighteningly charismatic. He's like if Willy Wonka discovered fascism and decided to give it jazz hands. Josh Brolin brings a cold, calculating presence as Killian, the corporate mastermind behind the show. Someone who could probably convince you to commit crimes and sign up for a loyalty program in the same breath. Add in scene stealers like William H. Macy, Michael Cera, Daniel Ezra, and a string of colourful supporting characters, and the 2025 film becomes a playground of memorable personalities, often more memorable than the hero himself. In terms of depth, presence, and performance, the edge goes to 2025. But in terms of sheer memorable madness, 1987 puts up a massive fight. Round 3 goes to 2025. The stylistic differences between these two films are almost comedic. The 1987 Running Man is directed like a toy commercial with occasional murder. The cinematography is functional, but rarely elegant. Scenes end abruptly. The pacing hopscotches all over the place, but somehow all of that chaos adds to the experience. The film feels like a dystopian carnival ride, where the seatbelts are optional and their walls are made of spray-painted cardboard. It has energy. It has colour. It has that unmistakable, unapologetic 80s charm. Meanwhile, Edgar Wright's 2025 direction is polished, focused, and intentional. His camera moves with purpose. His world is meticulously crafted with a level of detail that invites analysis. The lighting, colour palette, and shot composition all point toward a society crumbling under the weight of capitalism and spectacle. Wright frames the world as a slow-motion societal collapse, and it's often beautiful to watch. But with that beauty comes weight. The movie can be heavy, very heavy, and at times the pacing slows to a crawl. It's more technically impressive than the 1987 version, but it's not always as fun. Still, in terms of sheer craftsmanship, 2025 claims this round. The action in the 1987 film is loud, outrageous, and cartoonishly violent. Every sequence is over the top and ludicrous. Chainsaws crash against metal, flamethrowers ignite at random, ice skates become weapons, explosions erupt with no regard for physics. It's adrenaline, nonsense, and spectacle. And it's glorious. The 2025 film goes in the opposite direction. The action is deliberate, grounded, and uncomfortable. Gunshots sound real. Injuries hurt. The chases feel exhausting instead of exhilarating. It's more realistic, but realism alone does not guarantee excitement. Both approaches work, but for pure energy and rewatchability, 1987 takes the round. This round doesn't take long. The 1987 film shares a title, a few names, and the general idea of a running man. And that's it. The book's bleak exploration of poverty, systemic violence, and media exploitation is replaced with electric ice rinks and a man wearing festive holiday lights. The 2025 film, however, embraces King's vision. It captures the despair. It captures the corruption. It captures the ugliness of a society that would rather watch suffering on television than fix its problems. Even when it diverges from the book, it still feels spiritually aligned with King's intentions. The 2025 film wins this round by an entire zip code. So, where does that leave us? The 2025 film is the better made movie. It is deeper, more thoughtful, more faithful, and boasts some incredible performances. But the 1987 film is the one that stays with you. It may not respect King's story, but it respects your desire to be entertained. It hits that sweet spot where stupidity becomes brilliance. Its villains are unforgettable, its action is iconic. And Arnold, as always, refuses to let you look away. If we're talking cinematic craftsmanship, the 2025 version earns the medal. If we're talking pure enjoyment, the kind that makes you say, yeah, that was ridiculous, but I had a blast. The winner, the champion, the reigning monarch of dystopian nonsense is The Running Man 1987. It's messy, it's goofy, it's over the top, and it's glorious. Sometimes the crown goes not to the best film, but to the most fun. Now I want to hear from you. Which Running Man wins the fight in your eyes? Do you prefer over-the-top 80s madness or modern dystopian grit? And which villain or hunter or stalker would you least want chasing you down a dark alley? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely can't wait to hear which side you land. And there you have it. 2 films, 2 wildly different visions. Whether you're a fan of neon-soaked 80s mayhem or the bleak corporate-drenched misery of the 2025 version, there's no denying The Running Man remains one of Stephen King's most fascinatingly adaptable stories. Even when one of those adaptations puts its lead in a yellow spandex onesie and asks him to fight an opera-singing electrician. And before we go, it's time to reveal the answer to this week's Guess the Movie quiz. The stills I posted on Monday, Wednesday and Friday were from 2022's Prey. Did you guess correctly? If you did, give yourself a pat on the back, a victory lap around the living room, and consider yourself officially smarter than the average movie buff. If not, don't worry. Next week's quiz might be even trickier, or easier, or both. I honestly never know until I've had a cup of coffee. As always, thank you for watching Man vs Movies. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell, sacrifice a VHS tape to the algorithm gods, whatever it takes. And I'll see you next week for another full review, another quiz answer, and probably another cinematic argument I start with myself. Until then, keep watching, keep guessing, and keep running. Preferably not from a chainsaw wielding opera singer.
Well, that hit the spot.